All right, so let me explain to y'all why Jay Z would have been an average rapper even today. He would have been still commercialized, but still average. Okay, so you got Tupac, right? He drops Me Against the World, right? Me Against the World is a double platinum album, 2 million copies sold. He's locked up in prison. While he comes out, he's already a superstar. He's already on top, okay? Him and Big are arguably two of the most commercialized rappers in the game right now, and they're doing it big, right? So he signs to Death Row. As soon as he signs to Death Row, he releases Hit 'Em Up. He releases All Eyes on Me. Now, All Eyes on Me dropped in 1996. And as soon as All Eyes on Me dropped, okay, um, in its first week, in its first week, this album sold hundreds of thousands, okay? I believe like in its first week, it sold like 215, sorry, thousand copies in its first week, okay? Which was kind of unheard of in that time in the 90s, you know? And Jay-Z also released his very first album, Reasonable Doubt, which is probably his best work, but it only sold 53,000 copies, okay? I mean 43, excuse me. 43,000 copies in his first week. Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt, okay? So it's a dud, all right? His fan base is not high. He's in the shadow of Jay-Z, Tupac, and Nas. So as that album drops, all right, Tupac does something to uplift Jay-Z's career. And you know what that is that he did to uplift Jay-Z's career? He mentioned the man's name in one of his songs. Okay? Same year, a couple months after he passed, he released the Machiavelli album. All right? Still doing units. Right? And now the very first song on that album, he's talking about Mobb Deep, he's talking about Biggie Smalls, all East Coast rappers. And he mentions Jay-Z's name. The minute he mentions Jay-Z's name, Jay-Z released In My Lifetime. And that In My Lifetime album, all right, I would believe it was released in 97, somewhere between there. Now, that album does 143,000 copies in its first week, okay? He went from 43 and got an extra 100,000 sales, okay? Only reason he got that is because Tupac name dropped him. So all the Tupac fans want to know who this Jay-Z guy is. Hawaiian Sophie fame. All the fans want to know. And as his album drops, the media, they gravitate towards Jay-Z because Tupac mentioned him. All right? Who's this guy that you're beefing with? It's like when you're on YouTube, right? Let's say a famous YouTuber calls out somebody that's struggling or this underground, whatever. That underground YouTuber is going to have more to benefit from because you name drop that underground YouTuber, okay? So he has everything to gain. But the commercialized guy that's already known, you basically giving the struggling artist free promotion, basically. And that's what Tupac gave to Jay-Z. Now, Jay-Z took that and, ran with it, what he's supposed to do. But it still doesn't change the fact that this man wasn't, what's the best way to explain it? He wasn't big enough to sustain his own level of fame without scrubbing off the backs of other successful artists. He needed successful artists to be great. All right? Nas didn't need that. Big didn't need it. Tupac didn't need it. He needed that extra boost. Right? Hawaiian Sophie fame is now becoming commercialized because Tupac is shouting his name out. Okay, so Jay-Z was always in the shadow of Big, Tupac, and Nas. Those was the premier MCs. Nas was commercialized and making hit songs before Jay-Z. All right, he was already on top of the food chain. Jay-Z was already, still on the come up, still struggling. Nas already had one of the greatest albums in hip hop history with Illmatic, and became a superstar when It Was Written dropped. Jay-Z was still struggling. right? And Jay-Z went from a nobody to a somebody almost in a matter of a few months, all because he was beefing with, or he made that song Brooklyn's Finest with Biggie. And that catapulted his career high because he was living off the fame of people that's already established, that's already commercialized. But if he didn't do that, he'd be just the average rapper because his lyrics wouldn't been able to captivate the world like Nas's did, or he couldn't bring the feeling and the emotion like Tupac did, and he didn't have the lyrical and wittiness or the craftiness of notorious Biggie Smalls. So yeah, Jay-Z would have been an average rapper if it wasn't for Tupac, because Tupac catapulted his career high, and he should owe Tupac a great amounts of respect because you wouldn't be commercialized if it as much as you are now if it wasn't for Tupac. Maybe he'd still be famous a little bit, but keep in mind, even in the 2000s, he would have had to deal with Kanye, 50, and dudes like Eminem, who was already commercialized in the early 2000s, and Jay-Z would have still been struggling. He got his little boost all because of Biggie and Tupac. That is what it is. And Nas didn't need Biggie or Tupac to be commercialized. He was already captivating and a hit out the gate. It is what it is. Just Prince TV out. Peace.